This is the Low Key Podcast. I do not own the rights to the music that's being played in future podcasts or past podcasts. I do not own the rights to the music that's being played in future podcasts or past podcasts of the Low Key Podcast. This is episode 28, Snow on the Freeway.
Everybody looking at me like I got something wrong with me. Something wrong with me. Something wrong with me.
What's going on? What's going on? You tuned in to the Low Key Podcast. This is episode 28, Snow on the Freeway. I'm basically going to be getting into Snowfall because it's got a recent season that's going to be coming up because they're going into season 4, which will be coming out in February. And this is one of my favorite shows on TV right now. Probably one of the shows that I'm stuck with, I'm sticking to. It hasn't got bad. It's gotten better and better each season, to be honest with you. So this is one of them shows that I'm definitely enjoying. When it comes to shows like this and comparisons, I always used to hear people say compare Power to The Wire, and I never understood it. Power to me is nothing like The Wire. When it comes to this show, this is probably the most similar one to The Wire, but it has nothing on The Wire as far as the reality and as far as the drama, and as far as the character building. It's no comparisons when it comes to The Wire, but as far as the acting and everything else goes, the storytelling, to me, this comes as close as I've seen as far as this type of show to The Wire. But this is a show that is somewhat based on a true story, and I want to get into some of that before I get started on how I feel about seasons 1 through 3 and what are some of my predictions for season 4. So basically, as far as I can tell and everything I've read and things I've seen, this is loosely based on the Freeway Ricky Ross story. And that's one of the reasons why I named this Snow on the Freeway, because a lot of Franklin's story, which is the main character of this series, a lot of his story is similar to the things that went on with Freeway Ricky Ross. And if you don't know anything about Freeway Ricky Ross, he was a major drug supplier in the early 80s, going into the 90s. He was a drug supplier, and he would move drugs not only for the streets. I think he was working for police too, and police were bringing in drugs, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and read them out more, but if you want to know more about that story, you read up on that story of Freeway Ricky Ross. Read up on everything that happened with him, and you come back and look at the show, and you'll see some of those similarities. One thing I've noticed, I think, though, with the show is I think they're very much separating themselves from his story a lot. Like, I think they started doing that in season 2. But a lot of what's going on with the whole CIA and everything, with the president that was the president then. Who was the president then? Was it Bush? Yeah, it was Bush, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't Ronald Reagan. It might have been Ronald Reagan. I'm sorry, man. I got to get my history together. But it was either Bush or Ronald Reagan. But either way, around that time, this is when everything was going on with the crack epidemic and everything that was coming in as far as cocaine. And it was a lot going on then with news of the CIA being involved with bringing in a lot of those drugs, if not most of those drugs, from Colombia. So Freeway Ricky Ross was heavily involved with those things. And a lot of this story, as far as the Snowfall story with Franklin, it was loosely based on that. And it ain't no denying that, because the CIA and all that stuff, man, that's a straight connection to what Freeway Ricky Ross had going on. But I want to get into basically some of the seasons. I'm not going to go each season 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to get into everything, a lineup. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I'm just going to dive into some of these characters and some of the things Franklin goes to leading up into season 4. And of course, you got Franklin. You have Teddy, which is an FBI agent. You have Leon, which is Franklin's best friend. You have Jerome, which is Franklin's uncle. You have Gustav, which is a Mexican dude that's basically trying to move product, helping another woman move her product. And you have Aunt Louie. She's basically Franklin and Jerome's wife and Franklin's aunt. You have Saint. You have Lucia. She's basically the one helping Gustavo move the product. Melody. It's certain other characters that come on later on, so I'm not going to go too much more into most of the characters. But most of the characters I named for as far as Franklin, Teddy, Leon, Jerome, Louis, Gustav, these are some of the main characters. These are some of the main characters of the show. Of course, you got the Franklin's mom, of course. So basically, the show dives very early on into when cocaine is kind of moving around as far as the drug epidemic go. It hasn't really hit as far as the crack epidemic. It's just cocaine at that moment. It's basically a lot of weed around, basically. And that's what Franklin is basically starting off doing. Like I said, I'm not going to get away any spoilers or anything, but Franklin is basically moving weed when we first meet him in the first season. We don't know what's going on as far as what happened with him with school because he was in college, as far as we know. We don't know what's up with that, but he's basically selling weed, and as far as we know, his uncle Jerome is the one providing him with the weed. We also run into Teddy, the FBI agent, and we get some of the things going on with him, and he ends up going to Colombia to do some things. I don't want to give too much away in that. Like I said, if you haven't seen the season or anything, but he's the FBI agent. Leon, like I said, is Franklin's best friend, and he is, I think he helping him in the first season, man. It's been a minute since I watched that first season, but if I'm not mistaken, he is helping him move the weed or whatnot. But it's basically showing the transformation of Franklin and what he starts to learn and the things he starts to see when he starts to see certain things going on as far as moving weed and moving cocaine. And I don't think it's a big mystery or spoiler to find out that Franklin starts to move cocaine because, I mean, if you watch the trailer, they're going to pretty much show you that Franklin starts to try to move cocaine. It doesn't show you how successful or if he succeeds in even moving at anything. And I'm not even going to go into that, but he does start moving cocaine within probably the second episode of the first season. And he basically tries to get some of his family members to help him, as far as his uncle and his aunt. And he's basically trying to find somebody to hold the product to. And like I said, I ain't no big drug expert, so I don't know all the ins and outs of how certain things are moved, but I'm going off what they said and how they was doing certain things on there. But he's basically trying to get some money and to try to do something different and try to take care of his family. I mean, to me, that's basically his end goal as far as the things he's trying to do, and the reason he starts to move into it, because to me, he straight goes into it fast. I mean, basically in the first episode, if I'm not mistaken, of the first season. But just to see his process and everything he starts to learn as far as the way he starts to move the product, and even the person he starts to work for as far as who he starts to get the product from, it makes it seem believable, because I guess you would think like, damn, I didn't know somebody can move that fast doing what he do. But when you learn how smart he is and how calculated he is, then you understand like, yeah, he could do this. Yeah, he definitely could do this. I mean, look at what he was going to school for as far as college. And like I said, they don't even get into that as far as the first season go, or why he even left the school. But seeing his progress and seeing everything he starts to do and learn, like I said, and the things he starts to notice around him, that is what excites me about the show and what makes me want to watch more of the episodes. It makes me care about his character more, because we also have side, I ain't gonna say side episodes, but we have like side stories going on as far as Gustavo. This guy is a former wrestler. I'm pretty sure he did time, but he comes into the story basically helping out Lucia and trying to, I guess, move something. I guess they're trying to help him, or he's trying to help them. I would have to go back and even dive into more in their story, because like I said, I was more focused on Franklin. Franklin's story was like the main thing to me. And even as far as Teddy goes, as far as the FBI agent, him coming in, he's basically going to the Colombia to try to bring product back to the United States. And they're trying to get money moved into the United States for, I guess, the Army, whatever's going on as far as the government go and things they're trying to do. Because I guess once they're done with their mission, they arrest everybody that was moving the stuff in or what was going on or whatnot. Like I said, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. You'll really have to sit there and pay attention to everything they're doing, especially in that first season, because the first season kind of gives you everything you need to know as far as what's going on with the CIA and what's going on with the whole drug thing, because I think I still would have to go back and just to dive more into that, because like I said, a lot of this is loosely based on Freeway Ricky Ross's story. But a lot of these main characters like Franklin, Teddy, and Gustavo, these guys don't even meet. Lucia, they don't even meet together in the first season. You just get all these stories separately. Most of these guys don't even meet face to face. The only person I think meet is Franklin and Gustavo, and he's at one of Gustavo's wrestling matches. But like I said, once everything entwines, that's when you start to go into like season 2 and you start to notice everything. Cause like I said, I'm not going to give anything away. I'm not going to start explaining, going into the story, because I feel like that'll start giving spoilers away for people who haven't seen it. But like I said, it's exciting, man. It's exciting just to see the transformation of each character and everything they go through, and how they all start to connect together and come together. Because like I said, in that first season, most of these characters do not meet each other. But going into the second season, they start to meet each other off gate, and you start to see how everything starts to connect towards each other. And a lot what goes on with season 2 is seeing how Franklin handles being the guy that's moving this product. And once he starts to move this product, how can he start to basically get into moving the crack? Because it starts to get to a point where he can't move the whole product as far as cocaine go and doing all of that. And I don't feel like I'm giving too much away, because like I said, these are in the trailers. And you start to notice how he starts to basically, as far as season 2 go, how he starts to try to figure out how he can do certain things without being so much in the spotlight and having everybody that he loves being in the spotlight. Not only that, he has to learn that he can't just roll up on certain people and ask, can he do certain things? Because you can't just go to certain neighborhoods, like, especially in those days, and even somewhere now, you might be able to say, like, him being, I guess, in a full-fledged black neighborhood and going over into like a Mexican neighborhood, he almost gets into a situation because he thinking he could just come up and be like, yo, I got this and that and the third, and they just gonna listen because of some money. But it's not like that. So, like I said, seeing him learn stuff and seeing the process of him becoming this guy leading in all the way into even season 3, it's just a crazy transformation. And like I said, I want to try not to give nothing away, because I think certain people haven't seen Snowfall yet. And it's a very good show. I'm telling you, it's a good show. And it's showing the mistakes you can make, and it's showing the consequences of certain things when you start to do certain things, and you just noticing the money, but you're not noticing the repercussions of everything you've done. And to slowly, but you see how it starts to creep up on certain characters when they've done all these things, and you see all the repercussions starting to come back. So you're getting all the benefits, but now you got to deal with the consequences. And that to me is the exciting part too, because you're just not seeing people freelancing or doing the thing, and then there's no issues. Like, we just good forever. You're seeing stuff with the cops and everything that's going on with them. And like I said, with the government and everything that's going on with those characters. And like I said, I don't want to give nothing away, but once you start to understand what's going on as far as what Franklin is trying to do, and once he starts to understand what Teddy is doing, leading into other characters starting to understand what other characters are doing, and like I said, the connection, that's the part where you start to be like, oh, here we go. That's the exciting part. See, that's the part where you starting to understand where these characters are trying to go to, and if these characters are even going to be able to move on, because maybe they've done too much to be able to move on. It goes back to Menace to Society, you know, where Kane had all these things, had all these situations, and he was finally trying to get to that point where he's trying to go on. And man, you should have seen Menace to Society by now, bro. That was like 1992, 1993. But anyway, seeing how he tried to just move on, and those consequences, those repercussions from just beating up somebody and them coming back on him 10 times fold. That's what I'm saying. To see those type of actions happen. What I will say about Snowfall is that Franklin's story is just so strong that it kind of makes you only want to see his story most of the time than other characters. Even though I am into these other characters like the Teddys and the Gustavos and the Lucias, but everything that's going on with Franklin, like his relationship with his mama, and man, his relationship with his daddy, and the way those relationships evolve, like I'm telling you, this is good storytelling and good writing. Like, that's exciting to see, because you never knew where that was going to go or how it was going to go. Because to see, like I said, that Franklin's evolution and where he goes and what he becomes is like, it's crazy. And like I said, those consequences and those repercussions from the actions that he makes, that's why his story to me is like one of the most exciting parts of Snowfall. And like I said, it's not going to make you not want to watch what's going on with like the characters as far as Teddy, the FBI agent, or Gustavo, and what he's doing, and Lucille, but their stories is just not as exciting as Franklin's. And one of the main reasons you can stick with Teddy is because Franklin and Teddy is basically connected. These two are like, once you start to notice certain things and see, and I'm not saying they come into connection like early on the season. I'm not saying that. I'm not giving away nothing. I'm just saying the things that's going on with their lives is kind of a connection. And you see why their relationship, once or if they meet each other, how it starts to build. That's what's good and so good about the show. It makes you stay into the show and makes you want to get more involved with the characters and understand what's going on with them. But like I said, Franklin's story is basically the main thing of the show. So Snowfall. That's why when you get these trailers, you basically get Franklin. He is the pivotal point of Snowfall and the driving point of Snowfall. And his relationships with his friend Leon, with his mama, and everybody. And the way everything, like, man, I'm telling you, the way everything happens around him and the way the people he's involved with, the friends, the family, and the way everything changes or stays the same is exciting. And it's exciting to see and to see what's going to happen or what's going to develop with these characters. So, like I said, my predictions, though, for season 4 is, of course, just to see what's going to happen and what kind of moves Franklin is going to make, and to see if he's going to remain the same person or is he going to be more, I ain't going to say ruthless, but is he going to be a more ruthless character or is he going to be more of a compassionate character? And to see everything that's going to go on with Teddy and what he's going to do with his relationships that's going on with like his wife and his child, or the relationship that goes on with Franklin and his family as far as Jerome or his mama, his uncle, and as far as Louis go. And like I said, I don't want to give too much away because there's certain characters that is not in, I ain't going to say they're not in the show, but they're kind of not been in and out, you know what I'm saying? But I don't want to give too much away. But to see everything that goes on with these guys in season 4 and to see what's going to happen, because so much happened in season 3. So much happened. I don't want to give nothing away, but so much happened in that season 3 with all of these characters, every single one of them. It was probably one character certain things didn't happen with, but there's a reason behind it, and I'm not going to give nothing away. But with most of these characters, something happened with them, and to see what's going to happen in that season 4, it's like, that's the exciting part, and I can't wait. But I just wanted to basically get into some of my opinions on the season and some of the characters that I've been rooting for and some of the people that I think have an important story being told. And one of the reasons why I feel like Franklin is a very important character as far as the story goes, and why he's one of the most important characters as far as Snowfall goes, and why I feel like everybody mainly is here for his story. Not to say none of the other characters are less important, but why everybody I feel like is more here for his story. But I appreciate everybody tuning in. This was episode 28, Snow on the Freeway. Appreciate it. Check me out later. Low Key Podcast.